It is Tuesday, April 5th. Watwanuradu Zawagwego. Joe Delaron Ujets. Welcome to the COVID-19 Task Force update. Today is our 50th consecutive daily update. I just noticed that yesterday as we were going through some notes here. So we've been doing lots of this, and there's still more to come. We appreciate the fact that you've been with us, many of you from day one, as we do our best to keep the community and others informed on what's going on in Kahnawà as we all battle this together. On today's program, Lisa Westaway and Lloyd Phillips will be in to bring us some updates. But before we do that, we'd like to welcome a guest who is someone we spoke to a couple of weeks ago about an initiative that Kahnawà Sigottiat Community Services had initiated. It was called Let's Talk Kahnawà, and it's a service for people who are feeling some anxiety or other emotions as we all go through this together. Joining us on the program is Rebecca D'Amico, and she is the Clinical Supervisor of Secondary Prevention at KSCS. Welcome along.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's, I think I said April. We're in May, right?
We sure are.
Yeah, I actually wrote down April 5th, so it's May 5th today. And back in April, we were talking and talked about this program that you're doing. And first of all, just explain in a nutshell, for those who haven't been watching or listening, what the program is.
Well, Let's Talk Kahnawà actually started back in July of 2019 as an initiative that the support counselors put together. And it was just on Monday evenings, and it was meant for people to drop in, call in, just to have a place to talk, not necessarily if they wanted something long-term. We were trying an initiative whereby it was less of a commitment and more easier to access a counselor, so easier accessibility. So that's where it started. And when everything started happening with the pandemic and everything that we saw that was going on in the community, one of the initiatives that the team and the larger support team had decided was to extend those hours. So it wouldn't just be Mondays, it would go Monday through Thursday, same hours, 5 to 8. And again, it was really just to give community members an outlet to talk, exactly like you said, talk about how they've been feeling, have a place where they can process some of the emotions that they're going through. So the program really started back in July, but we've really just extended the hours.
So when I heard about this, I thought, like many others, that this is really a good idea. Often when you have these kind of programs, though, it takes a little while to get some buy-in and get people participating. So what's it been like for you guys?
Well, actually, I mean, I think you're right. I think it does take some buy-in, and it takes some time for it to catch on, because it is a bit of a newer program that we've been launching. So it hasn't been super busy, but that's okay. Like, it's really just to continue to remain available. So even if we're not getting, calls every night or calls all the time, that's okay. It's really just, again, to remain available for when somebody does need it. So it hasn't been super busy. I think a lot of people have found their own ways of being able to process what they're going through right now. Things seem to be manageable and okay, but we still remain available for anybody to call at any point during the hours, and you'll be connected directly with the support counselor at that time.
So what are some of the things that happen when somebody calls in? How does that unfold?
So we've changed the process a little bit over the time that it's existed. And now I think we're at a point where we're making it the most accessible. So right now, community members really just have to dial 514-235-9607 and get directly connected to a counselor. Before, we were sort of using the peacekeepers and the after hours response worker as a way to do the connection. That seemed like maybe there were too many steps for people to have to go through. So we really wanted to make it the easiest, least amount of steps to get directly connected to a counselor. So we were able to find a process whereby the community members just dials that number and they'll be connected directly to a counselor, and then they can you don't have to necessarily give your name and information and all of that. It's not necessarily an intake to open a file or anything. It's really just, this is how I'm feeling, and I just need someone to talk to about it. And really, it's as simple as that. If things get more complex and the person's in crisis, then we will connect them to the proper resources to make sure that they get the services that they need. But if they're not in crisis and they really just need a place to process some feelings, that's what we're there for.
Well, this is certainly a time when there are all kinds of emotions being felt, and for some, it's a lot more difficult than others. So having an ear is something that's quite useful. And there are a lot of people actually who are living alone. Not everyone has a partner, a spouse, or someone in the house with them. And some of those people are the ones who really sometimes just find themselves alone with their thoughts. So this kind of service, I'm sure, is something that can help them. In terms of some of the conversations that you've had, what are people, when the conversation is over, what are some of the things they're saying, like, this is great, you should have done this earlier, maybe, I don't like this? Just give us some insight on that.
It really depends on where the person's at. So sometimes once they've made that, crossed that barrier to reaching out for help, sometimes they feel like, okay, I took the first step and this actually feels pretty good. So I think maybe I would want to continue with someone, and we can be the liaison to make that happen as well. And sometimes, like you said, it's just like, you know what, thanks so much. Maybe I'll call back again. We haven't had any negative feedback, so that's really great. We're really happy that people, when they do use it, they're getting what they need from it. We also developed a Facebook page called Let's Talk Kahnawà, and we try and put in at least a few times a week either just motivational memes or resources or articles, just to give people a place where they can go and get information. And we try and promote the service, remind community members how they can access the service. So you can also look for that page on Facebook as well.
Is there any, one final question from me, do people worry sometimes that just calling in to a service like this has some sort of stigma attached, or that gee, I'm problematic, or I know you're trying to do something different here, so how's that playing out?
Like we haven't heard anything like that. I think with a lot of people, just taking that first step is the most challenging. So once they hear somebody on the other end and there's no judgment and there's really just a welcoming kind of like, I'm so glad you called, how can I help you tonight? How are you feeling? And I think it sort of disarms people from that, like you said, that anxiety of even just calling and saying, do I really need help? Is that something, am I really at a point where I need to talk to somebody? And if you're not sure, and I've heard you say this before, even if you're not sure, there's no harm in just reaching out and seeing if that helps. So it's really just, I think it's important also for the community to know that it's in addition to the services that we already offer. So those main ways of receiving counseling by calling intake during the day or needing emergency services after hours, those things are still all in place and functioning very well. This is really just an additional service after hours, because sometimes people don't have the time or they just can't make it during regular office hours to call in. So it was really just an extra added on way to support the community members right now.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca. It's been enlightening. We'd like to thank you for joining us. Once again, that number is 514-235-2919. 9607. It's between 5 and 8 p.m. from Monday through Thursday. And thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thanks again. And just to let people know, it'll be all through the month of May. We're going to keep it Monday through Thursday, and we'll reevaluate after that to see if the need exists, and we'll keep the community informed about that. Thanks so much.
All right, take care. All right, Rebecca D'Amico, Clinical Supervisor of Secondary Prevention over at Kahnawà Community Services. And now from the Cattery Memorial Hospital Center, the Executive Director of that beloved institution, Lisa Westaway.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm here to give a quick update on two items. The first is the health check. So just to keep you posted up to today, I think it's day 3, we've completed 595 calls and have reached 369 people who have completed the survey. And this has led to a significant increase in our testing, actually, of community members. So we're really grateful that you're answering the phone, that you're participating. This has been really great, and we'll continue to keep calling as we move forward. There are a few people who have wished to not participate, and this is fine as well, but we really encourage you to participate for the phone health check so that we can ensure to test those who need to be tested. I also wanted just to give a quick update regarding the planning phases for the reopening of business. So as we've mentioned, there's the Kahnawà Economic Revitalization Committee, brilliant people who are working on plans to reopen the economy in Kahnawà. So we continue to work on that during this week. Some elements that are being prepared are health standards, packages for businesses, and a phased-in approach that will allow us to open up with minimizing the risk as much as possible. So just a reminder, and because we need to continue to keep this in mind, that as we open up, keeping the measures in place that we've implemented up till now, social distancing, hygiene, hand washing, cleaning, all of those measures will have to continue rigorously as we reopen so that we ensure, again, to minimize the risk. Again, this is going to be a collective effort, so we will be continuing to remind you of these measures as we continue to update you with respect to reopening plans coming up in the future. So thank you very much. That's all for my update today, and we'll see you again. Bye.
All right, thank you very much, Lisa. Lloyd Phillips is up next. He was happier than I've seen him of late because he was able to have some of his meetings outdoors for a few moments, and nice to get a little fresh air. He's got a lot of information for you, so let's welcome our Commissioner of Public Safety, Lloyd Phillips.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Lisa. So certainly, yeah, it was nice to get outside a little bit today and get some fresh air and have some outdoor meetings, and hopefully as the weather will cooperate, and we'll have more and more of that over the next little while. And I certainly welcome people to enjoy the outdoors as much as they possibly can. But like Lisa mentioned, that physical distancing is still a very important thing to keep in mind, even if you are outdoors. Just to expand a little bit on what Lisa was saying regarding the reopening plan of Kahnawà business, that has been the focus of a lot of work that has been transpiring this week and pulling this plan together. The community has to appreciate the fact that we have hundreds of businesses in the community, and in order to re-engage this massive endeavor on the community, many pieces have to be in place, and we want to make sure that we're doing this in the best possible manner to balance off the economic benefits of the community and obviously keeping the health and safety of our community first and foremost. Because as you recall, we mentioned before, with the more people involved in the community, with more businesses opening up, there will be more contact, and there will be more cases that will come up. And that's pretty much a scientific fact that they've seen, not only in Quebec, but they've seen that around the world. So we want to make sure that what we're doing, we're going to minimize that increase in cases as the way we move forward in the best possible way. Health and safety standards, obviously, being the primary. And the goal, again, I can't make a 100% solid commitment to you at this point, but the goal, and we'll do all we can, is to have a plan for the community to look at on May 11th. So keep that date in mind, and we'll update as the week goes on. With that, today was one of those days where we actually had a chance to sit down and do a little more strategic type of planning moving forward, ongoing planning for the continuation of the role of the task force as things evolve, and we're looking towards the opening of businesses, but also looking at like a little bit longer term. What does that mean for you as an individual? If you're not a business owner, in the community, how are things going to change for you in the coming weeks and months? I mean, some of that longer term thinking has been looked at, because we do get a lot of calls and a lot of emails here at the task force. People asking, can I do this? Am I allowed to do this? And and various questions of many sorts. And we welcome those calls, because many of them are people just asking for clarification, and we're perfectly happy to give that clarification. So people call and they're not pleased with what's going on, but again, we just keep re-emphasizing the message to the people. Why we're here, again, is first and foremost for the health and safety of our community, and that's going to continue to guide us until the last day that we're here. And with that, we know things have to progress, but we're not there yet. We're holding that line, and the directives still stand. But as soon as we're able to feel comfortable with the medical advice from Dr. Goche and others, and then we'll see how this plan will roll out, not only for the businesses but for the community as a whole. One of the questions we received a couple of times today was regarding the border, both the U.S. border and the Ontario border, on whether or not people are allowed to cross. People are free to go to the U.S. and they're free to come back, but they are subject to the rules and regulations at the border. And at this point in time, if somebody goes to the U.S. and they return, they're still required to self-isolate and when they come back to the community, because once you're out there, there's a line had to be drawn somewhere. In this case, it is the border between Ontario and Quebec, New Brunswick and Quebec, and as well as the New York State and Quebec. So once you cross those borders, if you come back, you are still required to self-isolate. And that, again, is all about the need to continue protecting our community, because, like I said several times, and I'll keep saying it, because we're seeing progression, we're seeing some positivity moving forward, and we don't want to do anything that's going to derail us on the path that we're on. Just like we've seen recently, the Premier of Quebec had said that the economy on the Montreal Island and the businesses and the retail businesses could open on the 11th. That was his original idea. But then again, as we suspected, after reviewing some of the numbers and seeing some of the progression of the pandemic, they decided to push that date back by at least 1 week, and now they're shooting for May 18th. So we don't want to put out false hopes to people. Believe me, we're very cognizant and we're very aware of the stresses on the individual people out there, on the business people. We're very cognizant of that, but we don't want to move forward too quickly, where then we're going to have to pull back, and that will cause much more frustration to the whole community. So we want to be very careful, very strategic, and move forward at a pace that, from a medical perspective and a health perspective, that we all feel comfortable with. So that's where we are now. There'll be more information rolling out throughout the rest of the week, and maybe even over the weekend. So with that said, I'll leave it there, and I'll turn it back over to Joe. So I'll see you soon. Anigawahi.
Lloyd. Well, that should wrap it up for today. On tomorrow's program, we're hoping to have Grand Chief Joseph Taquira Norton joining us. And once again, we'd like to say thank you all for joining us this afternoon. If you have any questions at all, you can always contact us over here, and we'll answer them as best we can. And that's really about it. It's Cinco de Mayo. So enjoy it as best you can. Have some Mexican food if you have it at home, and take care. We'll see you tomorrow.